In this lesson, we're going to see how to have access to your financial resources and how to manage them while you are abroad. When organizing a mobility abroad, it's very important to think that you'll be outside your country for a while and you will have to access and manage your money in a context which can be very different from your home country. The first suggestion is to collect information about the living cost of your host country before leaving, in order to know how much money you will need for your mobility. There are different means to manage your money while you are abroad, but the main two are through bank account and cash. Nowadays, travelers can easily access their money through their credit or debit cards almost everywhere in the world. Paying financial transactions by these means is easier and traceable, but not always smooth or without surprises and costs. Before leaving for long stays, as to say for example for a semester mobility, you should collect from your bank all the needed information about the use of your bank account, debit and credit cards in the host country, especially in terms of commission charged by your bank at any withdrawal and money transfer from your host country. You should also collect information on the host country system in terms of circuits and cards accepted, availability of ATMs and other related things. In most cases, the best option would be to open a local bank account in order to save money and to have an easier access to your financial resources in the host country. Using your home country bank account and cards abroad, in fact, can be both costly and difficult for different reasons. High commissions could be charged for using them abroad. Certain countries could have fixed limits of use for some kinds of debit and credit cards. It would be impossible to access an agency of your bank to solve any problem related to the use of your account and cards. That's why it could be more cost-effective to open a local bank account. You should be aware of the documents needed to open a bank account in a host country, in order to put all of them in your luggage before leaving or to apply for them at your arrival at the host country. Usually, you would need to handle your passport, ID card for EU citizens in EU countries, your annual income declaration, immigration documents like residence permit or similar, a proof of your address in the host country, usually banks ask for the renting contract, a tax identification number, for which you would have to apply anyway to rent an accommodation. In case you decide to open a local bank account, there are some suggestions we would like to share with you. For instance, you should be aware that usually non-residents are not allowed to submit the application for a bank account online, but are asked to go in person to the bank agency, so the best thing is to look for suggestions from your host institution about the agency where to go once arrived in the host country. Apart from local tips, before choosing the bank where to open your account, shop around to see which banks offer special products for non-residents or for expats. Another solution could be, if you are a client of an international banking group in your country, to ask your bank if they have branches in your host country and how the opening of a bank account there works. Furthermore, if you are financed by your home university for your mobility, check with international or financial office of your university the requirements a bank account should have in order to allow them to properly transfer your scholarship. While opening the bank account, make sure it will be able to receive international transfer in another currency, for example in euros, and that no limits are foreseen for them. Once you have your brand new local account, it is advisable to move in it reasonable amounts of money from your home country bank account, taking care of the exchange rates. Finally, remember to close it before leaving the host country in order to avoid high commissions for sleeping accounts. Anyway, the best option to survive the first days in your host country could be to bring with you some cash. Be aware of the kind of currency is better to travel with. In some cases, you would need to exchange some currency at your arrival. Euro is generally easy managing, but in most cases it might be useful to travel with US dollars. For instance, in countries where it is also accepted as official currency or used as intermediary currency for the exchange, like in some countries of Central America. While exchanging currency, some precautions should be taken. For example, it is always wise to check online the exchange rates. But keep in mind that any posted exchange rates will always be lower than those listed at the money exchanger or bank. The exchange rates posted online do not include commissions or fees. Remember that not all exchange booths are equal. It is usually wiser to avoid exchange booths in airports and train stations because their rates and commissions are higher than, for instance, local banks. About exchange booths, it's also important to be sure that you are using an authorized exchange dealer to avoid frauds. If you think to withdraw local currency from your debit or credit card once arrived in the host country, check the exchange rate and the commission charge and compare them with the same amounts of an authorized dealer. ATM are quite common in every angle of the world, but get informed about their availability in your country of destination and if they accept also foreign credit and debit cards. At present time, while we record this video in Cuba, for instance, it's impossible to withdraw money using Maestro debit cards, while the only option is to withdraw money using a credit card, but not all the circuits are accepted. Back to a few years ago, all the American circuits, like Diners or American Express, were not accepted at all, neither by ATMs nor by banks. Now that you have easy access to your money or you have it in your pockets, let's see together some tips to manage them safely and wisely. While there, withdraw cash and exchange money in safe places like banks or exchange offices and limit the amount of cash you bring with you every day. This will avoid the risk of pickpocketing, and remember, you can always block a credit or debit card, but you cannot block your cash in wrong hands. In any case, save a copy of your credit debit card details so that in the unfortunate case of robbing or lost, you can easily have them and block it. Manage to get informed if haggling is considered appropriate or not in the host country. Haggling culture can be completely different country by country. In some countries or places, such as souvenir markets, it may be common to embark in a bargain process to reach the most appropriate price for your souvenir or for your taxi ride. In such places, if you don't bargain, you are almost certain to pay more than necessary. By all means, bargain hard and try not to get cheated, but do not expect too much. Don't get upset if you pay somewhat more than a local would. That is quite normal in many areas. If you need a receipt for reporting reason, ask for it before closing the transaction and be sure it contains all the information you need. It's pretty common to bargain on a taxi and eventually realize that the driver doesn't have any receipt.